So in question 4, we need to find inverse function of g given here. So we're going to start in the same way, putting y equals x squared minus 8x plus 7. And then we need to rearrange to make x the subject. Now to do that here, we basically use the trick of completing the square. So to get x inside a bracket, we're just going to look at these first two terms and write it as y equals x minus 4 all squared minus 16, and then we can add that 7 back on. That simplifies to that. Then I can add 9 and then square root. If I then add 4, I've now got x as my subject. When I now write it as inverse g over x, I just replace the y with an x. So now I need the domain and range of this function, and it's helpful to sketch the graph. I can think of this graph as the square root graph. Oh, I didn't change that to x. That's an x in there. I can change it. I can think of this as the square root graph, translated to the left by 9, and then the whole thing shifted up by 4. So here's my square root graph. I'm going to translate that left by 9. So it looks like that, and now I need to shift it up by 4. Now when I look at this graph, I can identify the domain and range. So the domain, it can take values above -9. And for the range, the y values are above 4. Now we really need to check what is happening at this point here, and if my function is allowed to equal that 9, if x is allowed to equal 4. And where I will get that from is going back to my original question and looking at the original function and the original domain on there. So my domain here said that x had to be greater than 4. If I look here, x is greater than 4. This part here will always have some value. So x will always be slightly above, y will be above -9. So here I don't have the greater than or equals to. The range is going to be above 4 and the domain is going to be above -9. The other thing that is worth considering here is the graph of the original function as well. So just to double check all our work in, I'll put that graph on as well. So this would be y equals x squared, this dotted one. X minus 4 all squared is going to shift it to the right by 4. And then the -9 will take that down by 9. And we see the minimum point of our original function is at -4 minus 9. And we're given this restriction on the domain of my x is -4. So there's our part of the graph. The function that we're interested in is just that section there, which would be down there and up like that, crossing there at y equals x.